Hi, we're sisters Brenda and Elaine.
Welcome to the Body Wealth Podcast, a space for conversations about the wealth that really matters.
Your best health.
Finally, the topic of women's midlife health is getting some much needed attention. Last year, the U.S. federal government even provided more funding for research in the area of perimenopause and menopause.
Even in our own families and communities, we often don't discuss these biological transitions. So we're so happy to have Kezia Goodwin here today to discuss how she has navigated her menopause journey.
Hi, Kezia. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited about today's conversation, but how are you doing first?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Been running 100 miles an hour as usual, but I'm good.
I am sure. But
Yeah.
Before we jump into it, could you take a second to tell our guest a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Kezia Goodwin. I live in Durham, North Carolina. I am a second generation entrepreneur that has dedicated her life to advocacy for children in early childhood settings. I am currently working on an advocacy program for educators who are in the concentration, and it takes up a lot of my time, which I use all my spare time with my grandchildren.
That's wonderful. And I know it's great for our community. So thank you for that work.
Yeah, absolutely.
What symptoms were you experiencing that made you think that you might be entering or be in perimenopause or menopause?
It was kind of crazy because I thought something's wrong with me because I was nauseated a lot at first, which was really weird. But the nauseousness would come with that warm, inner warm feeling, but not necessarily a flash. They were kind of paired together. So I always thought I was coming down with the flu or something like that. And that pretty much was it. I didn't have a complete, flash. My appetite changed. I had super cravings, which was kind of weird for me. But those were the two things that made me feel like I was always coming down with something.
So then what made you tie it to menopause? I mean, did you go to a doctor and they told you had it, or
Yeah, nothing made me tie it to menopause.
Oh, okay.
It was a very disruptive conversation with my doctor.
How did that go?
I didn't believe her. I literally didn't believe her. I said, I'm too young for that. I'm too young for menopause.
How old were you?
She said, well, I was 48.
Okay, that's not too
47.
young.
But at 35, I had a partial hysterectomy. So because I still had an ovary and eggs, so that didn't throw me into menopause. And I knew it was gonna, I knew it was coming, but not. I just didn't feel like it was the right time. It just didn't make sense.
Did she do a test, or she just?
Well, let me put it this way: the first symptoms you asked about, then I ignored it for a very, very long time, and then I started to have hot flashes, and I was like, I don't know what's happening to me. I am like sweating at night, and it's embarrassing because I'm waking up. I'm dating my fiance at the time. Right. And I'm like, I just don't know what to do. And she said, oh, well, now I think you're in full-fledged menopause. So then I took blood tests after that point, and I guess the markers were there. And she was just saying, this is what you're going to experience for however long it decides it's going to stay, in your body. So,
well, did she recommend anything to reduce the symptoms?
Yeah. So I started to take collagen. Now that was the only thing I've ever done to reduce hot flashes that have ever worked. They say that collagen should be replenished in your body starting at 20 something, that you should always because that's when it starts to deplete in your body. But I don't know exactly the principle, but it's a regulator, and it lessened as many as I was having, because I was having them every hour. I was having a hot flash, but that minimized them, and it omitted the night sweats altogether.
Wow.
The doctor told you about that, or you've heard it from a friend, or?
No, the collagen she suggested.
Okay.
I went through 2 of them until a friend suggested a collagen that she was using that was effective. So I
Oh,
started to use that brand, and I put it in my shake, and it began to, help me out. Also, drinking alcohol will bring you a hot flash like no one's business. So
yes, it
I
will.
stopped drinking liquor as it was. I couldn't be in a setting of a social setting and then have a drink because I would be putting everything down trying to find a fan or find something.
Right. I know from personal experience that stress causes hot flashes. So if I'm in a stressful situation, then I might have a hot flash. Did that happen to you or no?
Yeah, in dressing rooms when I'm shopping, that I hate to shop. I hate to shop for clothes. I know that's abnormal, but it's just that psyche around, body image, and it stresses me to have to go and buy, clothes, and I would just like be drenched and changing clothes and things like that. I mean, I never understood why my mother would just get. I was always watching her and saying, what, there is no way you can feel that high in this room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you know, you don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. Yeah.
Wow. So to you, that was the biggest symptom of menopause, or I know, at this age, especially in life, just a
Yeah.
lot
Well,
of things come into play.
that midsection, I lost about 32 pounds recently. That midsection ain't going nowhere. It's there to be counted for. It's not leaving me. No matter what I do. So I, understand the people who feel like a tummy tuck is what they need to do, but that's it's the symptom of, the aches and pains are a little hard for me to decipher because I have a inflammatory disease, right? So it's a little hard for me to recognize that, but getting tired way sooner than I used to. you know I go to bed at 9 p.m. pretty much every single night, and I'm an early riser, but I am worn out. I have to get between that 12 and 2 time frame. I have to energize myself with an apple, or, I can't drink another cup of coffee because then I feel 3 a.m.
Well, do you like I wake up in the middle of the night? That's what I do. And I used to be the best sleeper, but most nights between 2 and 3, I'm up.
You're up
And
again.
I've just recently read, and I've heard this on and off, that that can be part of menopause.
I will say this. If I have a nighttime routine that if it is not perfectly that way, I will wake up. So the fan has to be on me, both fans, the ceiling fan and a fan that's maybe not directly on me, but circulating air, and it is cold in my room every night. If I have to wear a bonnet on my head because I am protecting the hair, that is a whole nother ball game. Cannot have socks on. It's just certain things that have to be in order. Because if I go to bed and there's no circulation of air, I'm getting up. It'll wake me up.
Yeah, the rest of your day is shot. If you don't get a good night's sleep, being productive all day is not
right
an option.
Well, so now we're talking about symptoms is all coming back to me because I'm experiencing it in all times. But brain fog is my enemy. It is my enemy. I have so many things to think about, so many things to keep on my agenda. And when your brain fog is so bad, you're forgetting to write the list of the things that you need. Every time somebody tells me something, I write it down immediately because brain fog has it's really dampened the level of productivity that I could actually have if I weren't, going through this time in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having that too. And I like, even if I think of 2 things and I think, well, I'll do one and then I'll do the other, I still got to write the second thing down. Or by the time I finish the first thing, it's out of my mind and
it's out, gone.
Gone.
Yeah, gone. I can't remember things. Memory is really bad too. Like just trying to remember, even like, I used to laugh at my mother. These are things that I coming in the room and just saying, why did I come downstairs?
Yeah.
What am I in here for? That kind of thing is, I know that when you get older, but I am only 53.
Right. And that's the question. Like, how do you know? And I guess it doesn't really matter. You just need relief. It doesn't matter where it comes from. So do you feel like your doctor actually helped you with this?
No, I don't feel like there was help. We get to this point and I feel like doctors say, well, you know, every woman goes through it, but they're not, unless you're going to a cutting edge doctor who's researching it and wants to know all the information, they're just like, you know, you're going to go through it. Here's, you know, maybe take, you know, something to help you manage it. But I really don't think the doctors are well versed in all the ways that it actually affects us. I don't think they understand the woven pieces that come with it, the memory and the fatigue and the inflammation and anything else that's happening with it. So I think that it's become a woman problem. And then, you know, now, of course, there's evidence that people are putting things together. I'm going to see a doctor, which I'm very excited about, in February. I had to change my primary because she just wasn't listening. But this doctor is an MD and a psychiatrist. Wow. And it's a new concentration because people who are going through pain or having the chronic illness that I have, or they're going through menopause or anything that's offsetting, there's a psychological attachment to it. Wow. And so she basically takes care of the whole body, the mental and the physical. And I'm excited about meeting her. It's an African-American female at Duke. I'm looking forward to it because the way it was explained to me, she was given to me by my lupus doctor, who was like, you need to understand pain management is just not taking pills. You've got to get into the psyche of what you're feeling and what, you know, what's going on with your body. And it's just great for people to actually listen to you when you are giving them, you know, concerns about your body.
Yeah. That sounds so good. I can't wait to hear after you talk to her how it goes.
It's just a psychological thing in some instances, and
no,
the
very
pain
real.
that you feel puts you in depression. When you're always, when I get hot and I'm on a plane and I can't get off and there's no fan and I've got that little fan trying to cool me off and I can't, and I'm miserable, but I'm also embarrassed. I'm, you know, frustrated. I got all this going on and it's like, it could have been a great flight, but for me, I was just in a place, you know, because of all of that. Yeah.
Wow. All connected. Yeah. I mean, that's what I try to not let the forgetfulness and brain fog affect my self-perception of myself as a smart woman. You know, I mean, that's a part of my identity. And then I can't remember why I came in a room.
Right.
Sometimes it feels kind of bad, but I'm like.
And you start living a secret life because you don't want people to know. I mean, my fiance is like, what was it? Oh, nothing. I was, you know, because I don't want people to know that
I changed my mind.
Right, I changed my mind. I don't want to be known as somebody that forgets everything, but my children know I forget. They can see it on my face and they're like, she forgot why she came in here.
So I feel like menopause, even though we all know that women are going to experience at some point in life, it's so nebulous. I mean, there's no definition. Did you feel like you knew what to expect?
My mother experience was the only thing I knew.
And as we know, they hide from us all the things. You saw some of the things that she was experiencing, but not everything.
But never the word menopause came out of her mouth. I mean, it was like, oh, honey, I'm having a hot flash, or I'm having a personal summer. But it was never like, when you get this age, these things are going to happen. That's one thing. I think our bodies are so different, just like our periods are different. Some people are, you know, spot on every time, or some people are 3 weeks late and it's normal. So I think that it is different. But to like even name it and talk about, you know, these are the things that you might be experiencing. And because no one ever really knows when they're going to get it, it's like, how do you prepare for something that is so specific to that person? Yeah.
Do you talk to your girlfriends about it?
Oh, yeah. It's very funny because I have girlfriends who are out of it. I have girlfriends who are with me and are in it. And then I have girlfriends who have not yet gone into it. We talk about it. I think we talk about it in fun. Yeah. I definitely don't talk about it as the pain body that it becomes when I feel like if you feel like you're deteriorating, and it only lasts whenever it lasts, it comes and goes, but it really makes you, it just depends on when it hits. And you just feel like, gosh, like I have no control over this.
You don't
Right.
None.
recognize your own body.
Yes. It's like,
It's like,
why are you doing this to me? Like, what is happening at this very moment? But you have no control over it. No
True.
matter where you're at, no matter who's there. Now I dress differently in layers. I cannot dress with anything heavy on. And go out of the house without being able to take off a layer or something like that. So a lot of jackets are worn over no sleeve shirts because it's like,
Yeah.
as soon as I'm hot, there's nothing that I can do about that. I have to think about all of those things.
that's what makes it hard even for doctors, is because it is so different for everybody to try
Yeah.
to, but it's, they passed this act recently, I think last year, at the end of last year, for NIH to actually start doing more research about women's issues in midlife because they know that they haven't focused on that, and we need to do some research so that we can have relief, because women, obviously, we're a big part of the economy in this country, and sometimes this affects people's work, not only their
Sure.
personal lives.
Absolutely.
Mental
Yeah.
health.
I feel like literally I second guess going out. I second guess doing what I'm gonna do and who I'm gonna do it with, who's gonna understand or whatever. Um, and it makes a big difference for me. It's a psychological thing because I plan to grow old gracefully, but the probability of it, if my father not being that person, I may not get there. But every time something makes me feel older or makes me feel out of control of my body, it just sets off a nerve in me that I don't want to continue to experience. I understand that there are pills that people take in order to regulate it. I just don't want to put any more medicine in my body either.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think
So
that's fair because you're dealing with other conditions that intersect. I mean, it all interplays.
hmm I've been reading a book called The Sacred Woman by Queen Afua. And it's a very popular book. It's been around for many, many years. It has, a spiritual base to it, but she basically talks about womb care and womb work. And she talks about the alignment of your spirituality and your body. And she names a number of flower essence that you can use in your baths. She, different oils that you can use to be able to, help regulate your body and your emotions. Because that's another big thing, your emotions are all over the place. And that helps a lot. So some people say take baths and some people say don't. I take them. I try to take them like every 3 days. Just do a nice long soak with those things in, and that tends to help my body all together. And so I've been doing that, and that's been very helpful.
And how
But
has it helped? How has it helped?
Yeah, so baths to me are just first they set me a little bit more balanced. If I'm just taking a shower and running out of the house, if I'm in the bath and putting the oils and essential oils, especially Epsom salt, sea salt and things like that, that helps my body regulate. So I think it helps me because then those type of things help me not to experience so many symptoms during the day. But I think it's just a replenishment of your body. And I think that we forget to pour back into our body what we need. And we're already, if you're in depletion and fighting this, it's even worse than if you were, that's why I drink water and I don't drink sodas and things like that. I try to stay away from all of that and drink hot teas normally, things like that. I just try my best to find things that are going to help my body operate a little bit better for me. Yeah.
I mean, that's important. And so do you just research these things online? I know you mentioned this book.
Yeah. The funny thing about it, like I brought the book up to my brother and he's like, I've been giving that book to women forever, like as a gift, because he's like, this is a book of taking care of yourself and the scars that our body goes through. She really gets into women who have been molested or taken advantage of or raped, and the psychological residue that's in your body, that you can go through a spiritual cleanse and you can go through a natural cleanse and regulate your body in that way. Queen Afua and all of the things that she's done. She has an amazing space that you can go to and do, get in the practice of doing healing. She does yoni therapy, which is, the cleansing of your body. Have you all heard about these yoni pots?
No,
That
tell us.
Pots. So so a few years ago, now a yoni pot is in her book.
Okay.
It is steamed. It's got a number of herbs in the water that you put on a pot, and you sit on the pot, and it goes into your vagina, and it's a cleansing of your. So they call it yoni, and I was like, what? So it's kind of like a reset. So you're like, it's like it's a sweating, it's a release. And I was like, I've never experienced it, but they had like places where you can go to get this done. Like you can go into
I've
a
heard
space.
of like vaginal steams. It sounds
Yes
similar to that, right?
Yes. The herbs and things that she mentions, that you mix them in the hot water, the steaming water, and then you sit above it. I thought that was pretty cool. I haven't done it yet, but I plan on doing it.
You mentioned you had heard of her before, but didn't really jump
Yeah.
onto it but you have to be in the right place, or you've got to be in the right time to hear these things. And,
yeah, you do. Like having a time, like one of the things that I learned about myself is that my environment first. So in the morning, I don't even come downstairs. Like I literally have created a way to get out of bed, wash my face, put on, whatever I'm going to wear for the day or whatever, go into my prayer space, pray and meditate, and then come out and do something edifying for myself. But it's very hard to get out of, if I get out of sync, I feel it immediately. But I think it's just honoring your body. A lot of it is we forget that our body, I bless the soles of my feet every day because I know that they're going to carry me through and to something. And so I ask for guidance. I anoint my head every morning because that's important to me to have clarity. And sometimes I'm not going to get that from medication. I'm not going to get that from anything. I don't think I would have done that 2 years ago. I was running around like crazy and not feeling and doing nothing. I just happy that my day was over and I could jump into bed and start it all over again. But now there's a big sense of gratitude. And then the things that I can't control, which is a lot, I feel lately, is just, I know that I have to render myself to prayer and petition that, I don't have it. I don't know what to do sometimes. And I need to have that guidance to make myself feel whole. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. It is. I think a lot of us think, oh, I don't have time for all that, but it really is time saving, I would bet, in, being able to be more productive for the rest of your day. If you set aside that half hour or whatever it takes to actually center yourself and be intentional about the things that you want.
I've coined a phrase, and I think it was Yana Van Zant one day that was saying it, but she said, what's in the cup belongs to you. Whatever flows over is for other people. So I realized that I had to be ensuring that I had something pouring into my cup all the time, because I can walk into my childcare center, which is a healing center. It's a healing center for children and the people who care for them. And I have to take on whatever is going on. And when you get into stressful situations that you can't control, somebody's, spouses beat them up the night before, or somebody's, lost their mother or whatever that is, you're in a role that you have to play in that very moment. And how horrible that you have to do that in your depletion versus having abundance to share. So I saw if this is your purpose, to be a healer and a restorer and bring things back to purpose, then you better be prepared when you go out here and somebody needs a thing from you. And I realize I can't get that from anybody else but myself. So the creator is like, you can't get that from your fiance. He's not here to do that. Your children are not to do that. Codependence, that's wrong. You've got to get it from where no one can take it away once you have it. And so I've been working on just the replenishment of myself every single day so that I'm prepared for whatever overflow that I'm going to have to give to other people. And then have healthy boundaries that once you've given what you can give, you start giving where your cup starts going down, then you're not giving in blessing, you're giving in lack. And that's not a blessing to another person, that you put yourself in jeopardy or in a bad situation.
And that's so wise, like you said, because you can't create out of deficit.
You can't.
So,
Yeah, you can. We do it every day,
right,
all day long.
but it's
But
better
it is not
to.
a blessing to the person you're giving it to. It's not a blessing to them. And it's
or to yourself.
Or to yourself. You are totally making life more stressful than it really needs to be. And it's not, people think, well, if I'm rich, I could do it. If I'm, if I was stronger, I could do it. If I lost weight, I could do it. And all these things. And that's not true. It's like you have to restore your love and faith for yourself. And when I started going through this stuff, it was like I had to go through self-forgiveness. I had to go through all of these things that made way for healing to actually play a large part of my life. And if you don't do that, you're just walking around here giving people stuff that you can't afford to give.
Right.
Well, how did you get there? What did you do to come to those realizations?
Yeah, I have a great therapist. And about 2.5 years ago is when I started that therapy journey. And I started the therapy journey because I was going through so much pain in my body. That was happening. I had all these responsibilities now that I'm trying to start a business. All this stuff started just kind of coming. And I felt like if I don't fix this, I would say my shadowy side is where I live. Like that voice in my head was a very negative voice because it knew nothing else. And so I started to read about subconscious and conscious thoughts, right? They say that 0 to 7 is when a child is basically formed, right? The belief systems that they have are pretty much formed, and then they build on top of that. Subconsciously, when things happen to you, you go through childhood trauma, or it doesn't have to be major trauma. It can be something that just sets you back. But when you perform, when you get up in the morning, you do what you do, you're doing it on a subconscious track. And that subconscious track is a belief in who you are by somebody else told you who you were. So it becomes what is normal. What's conscious is we say, I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna do this. And that's your will. And will is never going to be as strong as habit, as subconscious. It's never going to be as strong. So you have to change your subconscious, right? And so I started to research all of that. And there are a gentleman that I see now, Peter Deeds, where he's like, well, you need to forgive yourself. And I got real angry and I was like, forgive myself for what? What are you talking about? Like, I didn't even do the assignment. I was that mad that he asked me to forgive myself. So when I went back to him and he explained to me, when these things happen to you, it had you act on those things in a certain way. And for that reason, for instance, as a mother, you might have been thinking you were doing the right thing, but you were acting out of your codependency with your children. And now you've enabled them. So forgive yourself for that, because you will now have you'll start working on healthy boundaries. So I went through that whole forgiveness. I did a lot of therapeutic writing that unlocked a lot of things. I went into EMDR. Hypnosis is really what it is, but people get all weary when you say hypnosis. So they coined it EMDR, but I was able to be brought into times, because a lot of the things that for me is we carry things in the middle of our body because we suppress, right? We don't deal with if we don't deal with it and we carry it there. So I had a lot of unlocking happen during that time. And then, okay, it's unlocked. Now, what do you do? So setting healthy boundaries, making my no, and my yes, honoring myself in my yes or my no, making sure that it was going to be edifying for the people, myself and the person that I'm, involved with. And just being what he calls a compassionate witness to my change. Because, when you start changing, you might tell yourself, I'm not going to keep up with this, or this, I don't see the benefit of this. And you stop before you start. But being a compassionate witness to my change and giving myself grace, even though it wasn't perfect, it was an effort every single day. So it's therapy. It was therapy that brought me to this space of awareness, this awakened awareness about how I was living my life. And then there was just an innate desire to change how I showed up. I had my parents' conviction, right? Which is do the right thing by people, pay your bills, do things on time, all those wonderful things. But take care of yourself and love yourself was a foreign dynamic for me. I didn't even know what it meant.
I think that's
it
prevalent in our
selfish.
community, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Like, what do you mean love myself? You mean
Right.
do I take baths? Do I read? Like, what is the action of loving yourself? But being a compassionate witness to trying to get right with your soul, like aligning it and knowing that you feel good about it. I was just asked the other day at lunch by one of my educators, what does it mean to love yourself? I was like, that's a good question. Right.
So
And then
you
I
were
could
being a
give her,
role model.
yeah, I could give it all
you know.
back to her that somebody gave to me. And I could be honest, it ain't easy, but I do believe in obedience. I feel like everybody is purposed to be here. And many times after birth, adults or people make decisions that could harm you, that can stunt you or pull you away from that purpose. And then when I came into therapy and I shared that, we did an exercise that kind of connects you back into the purpose, not your mother or father, your mother birthing you or your father raising you, like back to the purpose of why you think you're here. And you can't know that until life begins to happen. And so growing up and having, childhood trauma and going through being molested and not understanding the dynamic of people not talking about it or saving me or protecting me created a person who, was afraid of everything, who didn't know which way to turn most times. And until I started to kind of hone in on this and saying, well, I knew I was going to be an advocate early on. I was 18 years old when I became a director for YMCA. I was 18 years old, and I always felt that. I was a youth pastor, and I always wanted to make sure all my kids were good. And, I stayed up all night because I didn't want nobody doing nothing to children. Like I lived it. But when I got to be an adult, I started to understand like this became my job, it became my mission. And now that I'm in something different where I'm getting people to understand how to see children, I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be.
So, say you meet a Black woman who is just thinking she might be entering menopause and very stressed out and scared about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would say to her?
I think that I've just learned not to resist, to learn everything about her body, because you're going to be in it. Try everything that you think might be helpful, but see what really works. And we take medicine way too long. We do. We take medicine way too long, and it's not helping. And I think we just take it because somebody told us to take it. But I would say to try the natural path of eating and taking care of her body, but to listen, to sit in quiet. Meditation to me is everything. And everything is pretty much revealed during that time. And, fear will make it worse. People joke and say it's inevitable. Everybody's got to go through it. Find someone who's going through it or has gone through it and can be empathetic to what she's going through, because people who don't understand, which is your whole house, kids and man, you need to support. I think be able to find support, but it is real. That's what I would tell her. It is real.
And it's not in your head. You're not making it up.
Yes.
It's real. And it's, I think for me, at least, it's like the way it was presented to me, it was like everyone goes through it. So just get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real and it's hard. Like knowing that it's something that you have to work to address is helpful, because just saying, well, every woman goes through this doesn't prepare you for figuring it out, figuring out how to navigate it best for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we should share our stories way more often. in a way that, could be helpful. I literally just learned how to dress in layers. I literally, because I was with a group of women and they were talking about it and they were like, oh, the secret to that is to dress in layers.
So talking to each
Yeah.
other.
Talking to each other is important. And just saying like, this is what works for me. I don't know if it'll work for you. The estrogen I got, the kind I got that really actually worked was from a girlfriend who said maybe this one would work. A lot of us deep dive in. We love research. We do the research and we could be a big help. But I think we should have, a space that we talk about it. There's a lot of groups around that talk about the effects of menopause that it has on women. And I think, encourage her to join a group,
On a scale of 1 to 10, how healthy do you feel today and why?
Probably a 7, a solid 7. And it's mainly probably because I did a thing. I actually changed doctors. I was not happy with the healthcare I was receiving. And I started physical therapy, something that helps me open my body and Pilates. So that has helped me a lot. Being able to function, have my body be functional instead of feeling like I got rigor mortis. I think that has been very helpful. But 7, because I got intentional.
And we appreciate your time and your honesty and your sharing all that you've learned and your journey. So
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Keziah. Thank you for
No worries. Thank you.
Well, that was a great conversation. What did you take away from Keziah's journey?
So much. I just feel like she has worked so hard to get and be healthy, both physically and emotionally. And it's motivating to me. I mean, I love, well, she says being obedient to her purpose. I have issues with the word obedient because it reminds me of like childhood and punishment and stuff. But the idea of finding your purpose and being true to it. And when you do that, how other things will come. I mean, that message resonated for me.
Yeah. And some of the other things that she talked about are really important. Some of those points being like how we really need to support each other as women, Black women especially, going through these things that we all go through, but we don't talk about. And so sharing with each other that, you can dress in layers, or that, a fan at your bedside will make a big difference. And they're not big things, but they help. They're very helpful to people in their individual lives. So
we don't all have to figure it out. Like, it's individually, it's like, well, maybe you figured something out.
It's been done before, believe it or not. So I like that thought. I also like her kind of willingness to look at some non-traditional sources of relief, not just going to the doctor and taking medicine.
And whatever you do, just the idea of building yourself up mentally and physically so you can go do whatever it is you need to do in the world, right? This idea of being full and whole so that you're giving your best is really powerful. And I think, especially when we're talking about menopause, for me, there was a period where I didn't feel whole. I felt tired and frustrated and out of control, like Keziah, and I probably was not giving my best.
And as you say, we're told, just deal with it. But there are ways to get relief and to feel better and then be better for everyone else. And that's what we want for us all. Thanks for listening. We hope this episode inspires you to increase your body wealth. If you like our show, please subscribe and tell a friend. For resources related to this topic, please see the show notes. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at Body Wealth Sisters.
The Body Wealth Podcast shares personal stories to inspire you. It does not constitute medical advice. For that, we encourage you to work with a trusted healthcare provider. We also want to remind you that the views expressed by our guests are their own. This podcast is dedicated to our mother, Jean Fernandez Barbour, who showed us what advocating for yourself really looks like.